Bullies ripped off new girls' clothes in front of everyone. Her response shocked the entire school. An inspiring story by Heartfelt Tales. Maya Singh had faced many battles in her 16 years, but walking through the doors of Riverside High felt like entering a war zone where she didn't know the rules. The stairs followed her down the hallway like spotlights, some curious, others dismissive, and a few downright hostile. Her family had moved from Mumbai to this small American town just 2 weeks ago, and everything felt alien: the accents, the customs, and especially the way some students looked at her traditional clothing with barely concealed mockery. If this story touches your heart, please take a moment to like and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales. Your support means everything to us. Maya adjusted her dupatta nervously as she navigated the crowded cafeteria during her first week. She had chosen to wear her favorite salwar kameez today, a beautiful emerald green outfit her grandmother had gifted her before they left India. It made her feel connected to home, but she was beginning to realize it also made her stand out like a beacon in a sea of jeans and t-shirts. At the corner table sat 3 boys who had made her first few days miserable. Jake Morrison, the ringleader, was the kind of student who confused cruelty with charisma. His followers, Tyler and Brandon, were eager to please their self-appointed king through increasingly mean-spirited pranks. They had already accidentally knocked her books down twice, made exaggerated bowing gestures when she passed, and whispered loud enough for her to hear comments about going back where she came from. Maya's parents, both doctors who had worked tirelessly to bring their family to America for better opportunities, had taught her to be proud of her heritage. Her mother had survived poverty in rural Punjab to become one of India's leading pediatric surgeons. Her father had overcome discrimination and financial hardship to establish his practice. They had instilled in Maya a deep understanding that true strength came from within, and that adversity was simply life's way of revealing what you were truly made of. But knowing these lessons intellectually and living them in the cruel social ecosystem of high school were two very different things. Each day felt like walking a tightrope between wanting to fit in and staying true to herself. She watched other students effortlessly navigate friendships and social groups while she ate lunch alone, counting down the minutes until she could escape to the safety of her advanced calculus class, where numbers made sense in a way that teenage social hierarchies never would. The breaking point came on a Friday afternoon. Maya was walking to her locker after biology class when Jake and his crew cornered her in the less monitored east hallway. Other students slowed their pace, sensing drama but unwilling to intervene. Some even pulled out their phones, ready to capture whatever humiliation was about to unfold. "Hey, Princess Jasmine," Jake called out, using the nickname that had somehow stuck despite being completely inaccurate. "Nice costume. Is there some kind of foreign festival today that we didn't know about?" Maya's cheeks burned, but she held her head high. "It's called a salwar kameez, and it's just my regular clothes." "Regular clothes?" Tyler laughed, emboldened by the growing audience. "Maybe where you come from, but this is America. We wear normal clothes here." "These are normal clothes," Maya replied firmly, though her voice betrayed a slight tremor. "Just because they're different from yours doesn't make them abnormal." Brandon, eager to impress his friends, stepped closer. "Maybe we should help her dress more appropriately." Before Maya could react, Jake lunged forward and grabbed the edge of her dupatta. The delicate silk scarf, which she wore draped over her shoulders in the traditional manner, came away in his hands. But Jake wasn't satisfied with just the scarf. In a moment that seemed to unfold in slow motion, he reached for the drawstring of her salwar pants, the loose-fitting traditional bottoms that were part of her outfit. The hallway erupted in gasps and nervous laughter as students realized what was happening. Someone shouted, "Stop," but the damage was already done. Maya's salwar pants slipped down around her ankles, leaving her standing in her long kameez tunic and leggings underneath. While she wasn't indecently exposed thanks to the leggings and the length of her tunic, the humiliation was complete. Phones were already recording, and Maya could practically see her dignity uploading to social media in real time. For a moment that stretched like an eternity, the hallway was absolutely silent. Jake and his friends stood frozen, perhaps only now realizing they had crossed a line from casual bullying into something much more serious. The gathered students watched with a mixture of shock and uncomfortable anticipation, waiting to see how this new girl would react to such a devastating public humiliation. But what happened next surprised everyone, most of all Maya herself. Instead of crying, instead of running away, instead of shrinking into herself with shame, Maya bent down calmly and pulled up her salwar pants. She retied the drawstring with steady hands, then reached out to Jake, who was still holding her dupatta like evidence of a crime he suddenly wished he hadn't committed. "Thank you," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the silent hallway. "For showing everyone exactly who you are." She took her dupatta from his nerveless fingers and draped it back over her shoulders with the practiced grace of someone who had been wearing traditional Indian clothes her entire life. Then she looked around at the crowd of students, making eye contact with as many as she could. "I know I'm different," Maya continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I wear different clothes, I speak with an accent, I eat different food, and I come from a place most of you have probably never been. But you know what I learned growing up in Mumbai? I learned that the way you treat people who are different from you says nothing about them and everything about you." She turned back to Jake, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "You tried to humiliate me because you thought being different was something to be ashamed of. But I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud of my family, who worked incredibly hard to give me opportunities in this country. I'm proud of my culture, which taught me to treat everyone with respect regardless of how they treat me." The hallway remained completely silent except for Maya's clear, steady voice. "You thought you would break me by trying to make me feel like I don't belong here. But here's what you don't understand, I don't need your approval to belong anywhere. I belong wherever I choose to be, wearing whatever I choose to wear, being exactly who I choose to be." Maya adjusted her dupatta one final time, then looked directly into one of the recording phones. "To everyone who's going to see this video, and I know you're all going to post it, I want you to know that this is what strength looks like. Not hurting other people because they're different, but standing up for yourself and maintaining your dignity no matter what anyone tries to take from you." She then did something that absolutely nobody expected. She smiled, not a bitter or sarcastic smile, but a genuinely warm expression that somehow transformed her entire face. "Jake, Tyler, Brandon, I forgive you. I forgive you because I refuse to carry the weight of your actions in my heart. But I also want you to know that what you did today will follow you a lot longer than it will follow me. Because while I get to go home tonight proud of how I handled this situation, you three have to go home knowing that when it mattered, when you had a chance to show what kind of men you're becoming, you chose cruelty." The spell that had held the hallway frozen finally broke. Students began murmuring to each other, but the energy had completely shifted. Several kids were putting their phones away without posting anything. A few were looking at Jake and his friends with expressions of disgust rather than amusement. As Maya walked toward her locker with perfect posture and unhurried steps, something remarkable happened. Aisha, a girl from her chemistry class, fell into step beside her. "That was incredible," Aisha whispered. "I could never have handled that the way you just did." "Yes, you could," Maya replied quietly. "When you know who you are, really know it, nobody can take that away from you." By the time Maya reached her locker, she wasn't walking alone anymore. Emma from her English class had joined them, along with Marcus from student government and Sarah from the drama club. Word was spreading through the school, but not in the way Jake had intended. Instead of being remembered as the girl who got humiliated by the popular boys, Maya was becoming known as the girl who turned her worst moment into her defining moment. Students who had never spoken to her before were introducing themselves. Teachers who had witnessed the aftermath were checking on her, expressing admiration for her composure. The real transformation, however, was happening to Jake and his friends. As the day progressed, they found themselves increasingly isolated. Students who had previously laughed at their pranks were now giving them cold shoulders. Teachers were watching them more carefully. Parents were calling the school after their children came home with stories about what had happened in the hallway. Principal Martinez called Maya to her office, but not for the reasons Maya had feared. Instead of being in trouble, Maya found herself being praised for her handling of an impossible situation. The principal had reviewed the security footage and witness statements, and consequences were being prepared for Jake, Tyler, and Brandon. Maya, Principal Martinez said, "In 30 years of education, I have rarely seen such grace under pressure. You turned what could have been a traumatic experience into a teaching moment for our entire school community. That takes remarkable character." Maya's parents, when they heard about the incident, felt a complex mixture of fury at the boys who had humiliated their daughter and immense pride in how she had responded. Her mother cried when Maya recounted the story, not from sadness but from overwhelming pride. "Beta," her mother said, using the Hindi term of endearment, "your grandmother would have been so proud. She faced so much discrimination when she was young, but she always said that our response to adversity is what defines us, not the adversity itself." The ripple effects continued throughout the weekend and into the following week. The video that Jake had hoped would go viral as Maya's humiliation instead became a powerful example of dignity in the face of cruelty. Students from other schools shared it with captions about standing up to bullying and being proud of your heritage. Jake, Tyler, and Brandon faced suspension and were required to attend sensitivity training. More importantly, they were experiencing social consequences that would last far longer than their official punishment. Students who had once competed for their approval now avoided them. The social power they had wielded through fear and intimidation had evaporated overnight. But perhaps the most significant change was in Maya herself. The incident, rather than breaking her spirit, had crystallized something important within her. She realized that she had been spending too much energy trying to fit in instead of simply being herself. The girl who had been eating lunch alone was now surrounded by friends who appreciated her for exactly who she was. Maya started a cultural awareness club at school, sharing stories and traditions from her homeland while learning about her classmates' diverse backgrounds. She organized an international food day that became one of the school's most popular events. She began tutoring students in mathematics, drawing on teaching methods she had learned in India's rigorous academic system. Most importantly, she became a source of strength for other students who felt like outsiders. When a new student from Somalia started at the school and faced similar challenges, Maya was there to offer support and friendship. When a student came out as gay and feared rejection, Maya helped organize a group of allies who made sure he never had to face harassment alone. The salwar kameez that had once made her feel conspicuous became a symbol of pride and authenticity. Other students began asking about her clothes, genuinely interested in learning about Indian fashion and culture. Maya's confidence in wearing her traditional outfits inspired other students to embrace their own cultural identities instead of hiding them. Jake, Tyler, and Brandon eventually apologized, though it took weeks of reflection and counseling for them to truly understand the impact of their actions. Their apology wasn't the quick, insincere kind often offered to avoid consequences, but rather a deep acknowledgement of how they had tried to diminish someone else to feel better about themselves. Maya accepted their apology with the same grace she had shown during the original incident, but she also made it clear that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. She hoped they had learned something valuable about empathy and respect, and that they would use this experience to become better people. As the school year progressed, Maya's story became part of Riverside High's culture. Teachers began using it as an example in discussions about character and integrity. New students were told about the girl who turned her most humiliating moment into her most triumphant one. The incident became a turning point not just for Maya, but for the entire school's approach to diversity and inclusion. Maya's academic performance, rather than suffering from the social stress, actually improved as she became more comfortable being herself. She joined the debate team and quickly became known for her thoughtful arguments and respectful approach to disagreement. She was elected to student government on a platform of celebrating differences and creating inclusive spaces for all students. Years later, when Maya graduated as valedictorian and received a full scholarship to study international relations at Harvard, she would reflect on that terrible Friday afternoon as the moment her real life began. Not because of what was done to her, but because of how she chose to respond. In her graduation speech, Maya talked about the power of defining yourself rather than letting others define you. She spoke about how the worst moments in our lives often contain the seeds of our greatest growth, but only if we choose to plant them in fertile soil rather than letting them wither in bitterness. The three boys who had tried to humiliate her were in the audience that day. Jake had spent the rest of high school working to make amends for his actions, volunteering with immigrant communities and learning about the impact of discrimination. Tyler had discovered a passion for social justice and was heading to college to study human rights. Brandon had become one of Maya's closest friends and most ardent supporters, often crediting her response to his bullying as the moment he decided to become a better person. As Maya stood at the podium in her cap and gown, with her family's proud faces in the audience and her dupatta draped elegantly over her shoulders, she embodied something powerful, the truth that we cannot control what happens to us, but we always have the power to control how we respond. The girl who had been humiliated in a school hallway had become a young woman who understood that true power comes not from tearing others down, but from lifting yourself and others up. She had learned that dignity is not something that can be taken from you, it can only be given away, and she had refused to give hers away. Maya's story spread far beyond Riverside High, inspiring countless other young people facing their own challenges with discrimination and bullying. Her message was simple but profound. You belong wherever you choose to be, exactly as you are, and nobody else gets to decide your worth. As she concluded her valedictorian speech, Maya looked out at the sea of faces before her, classmates, teachers, family members, and community members who had all been touched by her journey in some way. To anyone who feels different, who feels like they don't fit in, who has ever been made to feel ashamed of who they are, she said, I want you to know that your differences are not weaknesses to be hidden. They are strengths to be celebrated. The world doesn't need another copy of someone else. It needs the original you. The standing ovation that followed lasted several minutes, but more importantly, Maya's words continued to resonate in the hearts and minds of everyone who heard them. Because sometimes, in our darkest moments, we discover the light that was inside us all along. Thank you for watching this inspiring story from Heartfelt Tales. Maya's journey reminds us that our greatest victories often come not from avoiding challenges, but from facing them with courage and dignity. Her story shows us that we always have the power to choose our response, no matter what circumstances we face. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced a situation where you had to choose between fitting in and staying true to yourself? How did you handle it? What lessons from Maya's story resonated most with you? Your experiences and insights help build a community where we can all learn and grow together. If Maya's story touched your heart and inspired you, please show your support by hitting that like button, sharing this video with someone who might need to hear this message, and subscribing to Heartfelt Tales for more stories that celebrate the human spirit. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads featuring real stories of courage, resilience, and hope. Remember, every time you choose kindness over cruelty, every time you stand up for what's right, every time you embrace your authentic self, you're writing your own heartfelt tale. Thank you for being part of our community, and we'll see you in the next story.